Picture this: a wealthy CEO, dripping in arrogance and designer labels, publicly humiliates a quiet black mother traveling with her young son in first class. He demands she be removed, mocks her appearance, and brags about his untouchable power. But what this billionaire doesn't know is that every venomous word he's spewing is being recorded, and broadcast live to 3 continents. The woman sitting 2 rows ahead isn't who he thinks she is. And in less than 3 hours, his entire billion-dollar empire will crumble before his eyes. Drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from right now. And if you love stories where karma catches up with the worst people in the most epic ways, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next. Marcus Thornhill believed money could buy anything: respect, immunity, even the right to treat people like garbage. The 52-year-old CEO of Thornhill Global Mining had built his fortune on African soil, exploiting resources through methods he preferred to keep buried. Today, settled comfortably in his first-class seat, his $20,000 watch catching the cabin lights, he decided to make someone else's flight miserable. First class exists so we don't have to share oxygen with daycare centers, Marcus announced loud enough for half the cabin to hear, gesturing dismissively toward the black woman 2 rows forward. She held her 5-year-old son close, her expression carefully neutral, fingers gripping a worn leather bag that contained something capable of ending Marcus's world. Her name was Sarah Bennett, though Marcus would never bother asking. He saw only what his prejudice allowed: a single mother who supposedly didn't belong. What he couldn't see was the International Criminal Court identification hidden in her purse, or the 3 years she'd spent infiltrating his criminal operations across Central Africa. Marcus's personal assistant, Jennifer, leaned in with a conspiratorial whisper. "That child probably doesn't even have a father. These women always travel alone." Sarah's jaw tightened imperceptibly. She thought of Daniel Okoro, the community activist and father of the boy sleeping against her shoulder. Daniel, who'd been murdered by Thornhill Global security forces 18 months ago for daring to document their illegal mining operations. The same Daniel who'd once been Sarah's colleague, her partner in humanitarian work, and eventually much more. Flight attendant. Marcus snapped his fingers like summoning a servant. "Shouldn't you verify that all passengers actually belong in this section? I suspect there's been a ticketing error." The attendant approached Sarah reluctantly, clearly uncomfortable. "Ma'am, may I please see your boarding pass?" Sarah calmly produced not just her ticket, but discreetly flashed official credentials that made the attendant's eyes widen in recognition. She returned to Marcus with newfound confidence. "Everything is perfectly in order, Mr. Thornhill." What Marcus couldn't know, what his arrogance wouldn't allow him to see, was that Sarah Bennett wasn't just any investigator. She'd spent 36 months building an airtight case against Thornhill Global Mining, documented bribes to foreign officials, environmental devastation, forced labor conditions, and most damningly, evidence connecting the company to 17 murders of local activists who'd tried to expose their crimes. The small recording device in Sarah's bag captured every degrading comment Marcus made. But more importantly, pilot James Richardson, a former intelligence operative and Sarah's longtime collaborator, was broadcasting everything live to the International Criminal Court in The Hague, the FBI, and prosecutors in 4 African nations. Marcus continued his performance, oblivious to the digital net tightening around him. "I'll bet she works as housekeeping somewhere," he said to Jennifer, deliberately loud. "It's remarkable how these people scrape together money to pretend they have class." Sarah closed her eyes briefly, remembering Daniel's face the last time they'd spoken via satellite phone. He'd been documenting child labor in Thornhill's unauthorized mines, gathering evidence that would finally expose the company's brutality. 3 days later, he was found dead, officially ruled an accident, though the photographs Sarah had obtained told a different story entirely. "Soon, sweetheart," she whispered to the sleeping boy. "Your daddy's going to get justice. I promised him." Marcus wasn't finished. He called his Miami office on speakerphone, making sure Sarah could hear. "Yes, alert airport security. I want this woman thoroughly investigated when we land. Something's clearly not right about her presence on this flight. Each threat, each racist assumption, each arrogant declaration was being permanently documented. In The Hague, Deputy Prosecutor Helen Morrison watched 3 monitors simultaneously, live audio from the aircraft, files documenting Thornhill Global's crimes, and photographs of victims including Daniel Okoro. We need direct admission of knowledge regarding the killings, Morrison told her team. Corporate malfeasance is provable, but for crimes against humanity, we need him to explicitly acknowledge the murders. Sarah knew this. She'd been trained for exactly this moment, how to draw out confessions from narcissists too self-assured to recognize danger. She turned slightly in her seat, making eye contact with Marcus for the first time. "Excuse me," she said with perfect politeness. "I couldn't help overhearing you mention operations in Africa. That must be fascinating work, managing international projects." Marcus stared at her, surprised she'd initiated conversation. His ego immediately overrode caution. "Ah, so you do speak. And what would someone like you understand about managing a multi-billion-dollar enterprise?" Sarah tilted her head innocently. "I've read about some challenges companies face there, labor regulations, environmental compliance. It must be complicated balancing profitability with all those international laws." It was masterfully done. Marcus couldn't resist demonstrating his cleverness to someone he considered intellectually inferior. "Laws?" He laughed condescendingly. "You really don't understand how business works in developing regions, do you? Those people need the employment. Without my operations, they'd have nothing." Still, Sarah continued carefully, "I imagine you have to take certain liberties with local regulations to maintain efficiency?" Marcus leaned forward, his billion-dollar empire about to be demolished by his own mouth. "Liberties? Sweetheart, that continent operates on one universal language, money. Government officials understand this language fluently." Jennifer tried interrupting. "Marcus, perhaps we shouldn't." He waved her off dismissively. "What's this woman going to do? Take legal action against a multinational corporation?" His laughter echoed through first class. "Who would believe her testimony against mine?" Sarah smiled gently. "You're absolutely right. Who would believe me?" Every word was being captured in crystal-clear audio, transmitted to international prosecutors who'd spent years building their case. But Sarah needed more. She needed Marcus to connect himself directly to Daniel Okoro's death. "There must occasionally be local individuals who resist development projects," she remarked casually, her tone conversational. Marcus nodded, his arrogance in full bloom. "Always. There are always idealists who don't comprehend the benefits of progress. But these obstacles have a natural way of resolving themselves when you maintain the right connections." The admission hung in the air like a noose. In the cockpit, James Richardson activated emergency protocols. "Control, we have indirect admission to eliminating opposition. Proceeding to extract direct confession." Sarah pressed forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "Some resistors must be more persistent than others." "Oh, absolutely," Marcus agreed, completely unaware of the trap. "I remember one particularly troublesome case about 18 months ago. Some young activist, Daniel something, was organizing protests, contacting international media, seriously disrupting our production schedules." Sarah's breath caught, but she maintained composure. "And what happened to him?" Marcus shrugged with chilling indifference. "Problems tend to solve themselves when you employ competent security personnel. Our head of operations, former military, had a very persuasive conversation with young Daniel. Unfortunately, the activist didn't recognize when to stop asking dangerous questions. The confession was complete. Marcus Thornhill had just admitted involvement in murder to an international audience, caught on multiple recording systems, with a cabin full of witnesses. In The Hague, Prosecutor Morrison stood immediately. Issue the international arrest warrant now. Coordinate with Miami authorities for immediate detention upon landing. Marcus continued talking, oblivious to his destruction. The amusing part is these activists genuinely believe they're heroes, that their little protests will change anything. They don't understand they're merely temporary inconveniences for people with real power and resources. Jennifer's phone began buzzing frantically. She answered, then turned completely pale. Marcus, something's wrong. The office says federal agents just arrived with search warrants. They're seizing all our servers and files. Marcus snatched her phone. What are you talking about? That's impossible. The company's general counsel sounded panicked. Marcus, where are you? International warrants are being issued. Something about crimes against humanity. They have recordings, Marcus. Recordings of you confessing to. The realization crashed over him like a tsunami. His eyes found Sarah, who was now standing, removing her official credentials from her leather bag. My name is Sarah Bennett, she announced in a clear, authoritative voice that commanded the entire cabin's attention. I am the lead investigator for transnational corporate crimes at the International Criminal Court. For the past 3 years, I've directed the international investigation into Thornhill Global Mining's illegal operations across Central Africa, operations that resulted in 17 murders of community activists, including Daniel Okoro, aged 31, father of 1 child. The cabin fell into shocked silence. Daniel wasn't just my investigation source, Sarah continued, her voice thick with controlled emotion. He was my partner in humanitarian work, someone I deeply cared for. Someone who gave his life trying to protect his community from corporations that exploit natural resources through violence, environmental destruction, and selective assassination. Marcus tried standing but his legs wouldn't support him. This is entrapment. You can't prove. Actually, I can, Mr. Thornhill. Sarah's smile was coldly professional. For the past 3 hours, every statement you've made has been broadcast live to the International Criminal Court, the FBI, and prosecutors in 4 African countries. Your admissions regarding bribing officials and, more critically, your direct acknowledgement of involvement in Daniel Okoro's murder have been recorded by multiple agencies simultaneously. The pilot's voice came through the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been notified by Miami Air Traffic Control that this aircraft will be escorted by military jets for the remainder of our approach. Federal agents will be waiting to execute international arrest warrants for specific passengers. Marcus collapsed into his seat, the arrogance draining from his face like water from a burst dam. He looked at Sarah with dawning horror. How? How did you orchestrate all this? 3 years of infiltrating your organization at every level, Sarah explained calmly. Your own security personnel, site managers, even mid-level executives provided evidence in exchange for immunity. They all understood they were working for a monster. She produced a folder of photographs, Daniel Okoro and 16 other victims, each with families, each with stories Marcus had erased for profit. The boy, Sarah whispered, looking at the sleeping child, is Daniel's son. When Daniel was killed, his wife asked me to raise him in America, away from the violence. I promised her, and I promised Daniel, that his death wouldn't be meaningless. The final revelation hit like lightning. Sarah wasn't just an investigator. She was the adoptive mother of Marcus's victim's child, a woman who'd turned grief into systematic justice. As Miami's lights appeared through the windows, flanked by military escort jets, Marcus understood the totality of his downfall. In 3 hours, he'd lost everything, fortune, company, family, freedom, to the woman he'd mocked based solely on racist assumptions about her appearance and worth. The plane touched down to a scene of federal vehicles and international media. Marcus Thornhill was handcuffed before reaching the terminal, charged with 23 counts including murder, crimes against humanity, and international conspiracy. 6 months later, his trial became historic. He received life imprisonment without parole possibility. His $12 billion fortune was liquidated to compensate victims' families. Sarah Bennett was promoted to executive director of international corporate crime, earning more annually than Marcus's entire remaining assets. The Daniel Okoro Foundation, established with Thornhill Global's seized assets, now protects community activists in 37 countries, providing legal defense and international sanctuary against predatory corporations. Marcus, in his solitary cell, reportedly asks the same question daily: how did someone I saw as nothing destroy everything I built? The answer remains devastatingly simple: he underestimated the wrong woman. And sometimes, the most dangerous people in the world are those powerful enough to hide behind appearances, until the moment they reveal themselves and watch empires crumble with surgical precision. 3 hours of racist humiliation became 30 years of systematic international justice that will protect thousands of lives. That's not revenge, that's legacy.